I got back in zone.
Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. Every Monday, the TTPS joins us on the Now Morning Show. And this Monday, it's Cyber Monday with the TTPS. And I welcome back Inspector Ajane Baliwa. Ajane Baliwa. Good morning to you, Inspector. I apologize.
That's no problem. Good morning.
Inspector, you work in the Cyber and Social Media Unit at the TTPS, yes?
At this time, yes.
At this time. Now, we had a very interesting conversation going on off air, right? And I really wanted to bring it on air because I think there's a lot of misconception when it comes to the work that the Cyber and Social Media Unit do and the laws that support the work that they do. People refer to it as cyber crime. Is that an applicable term here in Trinidad and Tobago?
At this point, this is not an applicable term.
Why not?
And a crime is an act on omission punishable by law.
Mm-hmm.
And in the absence of cyber laws, then essentially there's no cyber crime. What we have in Trinidad and Tobago is cyber-enabled crime,
okay,
where the use of the technology to facilitate other crimes, which come along with our statutes.
Okay.
So, like Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is utilizing the space to enable a crime, because you are brought from one place to another,
mm-hmm,
and then a crime occurs.
Right.
So you either have a robbery, you either have larceny, or one of those other offenses that are normally aligned to our statutes.
Okay. So then if it was a situation like online, like I'm online shopping or whatever, let's say it's a local company, as the case may be, not Facebook Marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
So a company that have a website online or whatever the case is, or it might be a fake website,
mm-hmm,
and they take my credit card information and I lose money that way. Is that a
Right.
crime?
Well, the evidence that would be adduced from that report
Right.
would determine if it's a fraud issue.
Okay.
So which is our statutes, which will fall under our
Right.
statutes.
Right.
You see, what happens is that with each report, evidence can be adduced from it.
Right.
And once the evidence is adduced to satisfy one of our statutes, then there would be a crime at that stage. But then it does not make it a cyber crime, as in the label.
Right.
Cyber crime, but it would make it an offense under one of our other
Under the
acts.
Fraud Act.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like you to guide me through something here, right? Because one of the things you said is that it basically essentially moves from place to place. So it moves from online and enables the person to go to, let's say, a physical space,
Yes,
and do something, right? So let's say in the case of defamation online, where does that fall into the sphere of things? Because if somebody is online and they're bullying or putting up posts denigrating a person's character, but it never effectively makes it out into a physical space, how does that get categorized?
Okay, defamation in itself is a civil issue.
Right.
Right? So that's not a crime.
Okay.
Now, when the cyber laws come into place, then that is one of the issues that will be addressed.
Okay.
But when you look at the other things now,
But
persons.
and you could take somebody to court for defamation?
Yeah, that's a civil
All right,
issue.
that's
That's
making sure.
Yes,
now
it's
remember,
what?
Right.
there's crime
Right,
and there's
right.
civil.
Right,
So
right.
with defamation, it's definitely civil.
Right.
Okay.
Right? Now, what you call bullying,
Right.
the statute that would follow would be the offenses against the person, which will give you section 31A1, I believe it is
You could say any number, we wouldn't know.
No, I want to because it was amended
Right.
to
Right.
facilitate harassment.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and where more than two or more occasions that once the person is doing something that will aggrieve someone else or so forth, whether digitally or otherwise, then it becomes harassment, and that in itself is a crime because there's a punishment attached to it.
Right.
So in those instances, there are statutes to facilitate, but then in some instances it's just a civil issue where that is a one-on-one take to court.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the TTPS monitor online activity to be able to determine things like that? Or is it that if I'm a victim, I have to come and complain and then you go and do
Well, that is the thing. You'll have to bring the information to the TTPS. Now,
Right.
if it is your field that you are aggrieved in some way, you can make a report.
Right.
Right.
The investigator who's appointed for that report would communicate with us at the cyber unit.
Okay, now I'm speaking about information, and given that, again, this is still a very gray area that we're working on, what would be deemed valid, and what can I take to a police officer as valid to say that perhaps I'm being harassed, or I believe that, well, I could be being blackmailed or threatened into a crime? Is it that I can take, let's say, a social media post, social media messages, and bring them as some sort of evidence, or is it something that I can provide and then it will be considered post-investigation?
You can actually bring your evidence, because there would be some level of communication over a period of time, because
Okay.
even if it's harassment, you would see it. You can do screenshots.
Okay.
If it's emails, you can bring. Well, emails will be saved,
Yeah.
because it's kind of difficult to delete it
From the other
away
end.
from the other end.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
But you can bring that to us, and in bringing that to us, as the police, a report can be made. So you have documented what it is has transpired. The investigator will communicate with our unit, and then we will take it from there, from the online aspect. So once that has been solidified, then we could proceed before the open court.
Okay, now we're saying we don't have cybercrime here, right? But there are other countries in the world where it's part of their law already.
Yes.
If it is that I am a victim of a crime, like a situation like fraud or whatever, and it with an international company, I mentioned online shopping, for example, and I send my money to an international company and I become a victim of crime, does the TTPS work with any international agencies
Yes.
when it comes to that
Right.
sort of
Well,
cyber activity?
At the Cyber and Social Media Unit, what we do is that we link with mostly Interpol.
Okay.
Right, and that exchanges both ways.
Right.
In that if they have issues that emanate from Trinidad, they would correspond with us, and we would facilitate as best as we can.
Okay.
And it goes the same way. Now, there are other entities that we may have to reach out to in the US or in the UK. There's something called a MLAT, which is a Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty.
Okay.
Right? We have to go through the DPP for that.
Right.
And that is where we have amassed enough evidence for a crime in our laws that is applicable outside. So what will happen is that we go through the DPP, and they go through the Attorney General in the US or in the UK, and then we work from there.
Right.
Okay.
So we do, but our basic partner is
Interpol.
Interpol, and there's also in the region there's CARICOM impacts.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's CARICOM impacts. So we utilize those entities so that for investigations as well.
Okay, so let's bring it back home for a second, because one of the things, of course, you've been mentioning is the statute which will govern crime and so much more. And also the next inevitable point of conversation will be legislation. It's something that is a work in progress all over the world, including in Trinidad and
Yes.
Tobago. How is your team treating with this as of now?
Well, we are part of the work in progress. So when you look at the gap that has been created with the absence of the law, it is being plugged.
Right.
And with the input of all the stakeholders, I would expect that it is going to be a very stringent law. And a lot of people would realize that the things you got away with before are no longer going to take place.
Inspector, I wanted to be honest, right? Because we've had technology for quite some time. We've had the internet for quite some time. We've had it for more than 20 years now. And we still don't have laws to support anything that happens online. Crime online is not new. People trying to do fraud online is not new. But we still don't have the laws in place. Do you think we're practically able to keep up with the pace at which technology is changing with our laws to facilitate it?
I think that what was happening now is a step in the right direction.
Okay.
Because from this platform, we will be able to technologically be enabled to do a lot of things. And this is the right step with the legislation that's being created at this point in time.
One of the things that Rokas would have just mentioned is, of course, the rapid development. We've had internet for a long time. We've had tech for a long time. We've definitely seen it grow at a rapid pace. And one of the things that we've also seen is the growth of artificial intelligence, especially with generative AI, which can definitely be an even more gray area than that which we're discussing. So what about your unit? How are you prepared for how that's going to marry with the growth of, for want of a better expression, crime in the IT realm?
What I can say is this. We are preparing with obtaining tools and training to deal with it. Now, we have to be mindful that AI in the public sphere is relatively new.
Right.
So that in itself poses somewhat of a challenge. But with our international partners, we also are getting that done. But then remember, we have to cater for the laws as well. And that is something that is also going to be dealt with under the legislation.
Right.
So once it the legislation is in place, we can treat with the offenders as they come forward.
And that admittedly is going to be a challenge too, because I mean, as of right now, we only see maybe one governing body that really has their laws put in place 100%. That is the EU, of course, when it comes to AI, because it just keeps on rapidly changing. It's not that it's something easily that you can just sort of hone down on. And speaking about things that we dare say now can be easy to hone down on would be phishing through SMS. We've seen this on the rise in Trinidad and Tobago. All of a sudden, USPS is working in Trinidad and Tobago. All of a sudden, all these US shops are working here. How can we deal with that? How do we determine what's fake, what's real, and how can we protect ourselves?
The thing about it is that we have to be more mindful. Some months ago, there was an issue with TTPS where a lady would have gotten a text message and she responded to the text message. It's unfortunate one transpired. But TTPS has, TTPS
TTPS, yeah.
has an office here in Trinidad. Communication can be made.
Right.
Rather than
responding to
to a URL or to go to a web page to give out all your information.
Yeah.
Right? We have to be a little bit more vigilant. Right? It is a bit difficult to know for a fact which is real or which is not from a text message or an email. But what I can say is that you can communicate via the official websites of the entities that are purportedly sending the messages to you.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. I have lots of examples. Netflix.
Right.
Oh gosh.
I get a lot of email with Netflix, but I have a Netflix app and I have a Netflix on my TV. So why go through a text message when I can go to the app,
Exactly.
or the website?
Yeah.
And the verification is there. We need to verify before we go forward.
Verification is key, and I thank you so much just for coming on and joining us this morning, Inspector, and sharing some information. Hopefully, you're a little bit more informed when it comes to the world of tech and what the TTPS is doing to make sure we stay protected. But of course, you have to make sure that you protect yourself and pick sense out of nonsense. You understand what I'm saying? All right, Inspector, thank you again for joining us this morning.
Not a problem.
We take a quick break and we come back with your birthdays on the Now Morning Show. Stay tuned.
No one couldn't walk alone. Tongue was like a battle.